This is another world building session with Evil Twin Skippy. Now, today I've got some corrections to my calculus character plot thing from the other day. Just a quick review, we were taking the Enneagram and we were combining it with our character color wheel. And we had this nice, short, quick little just turn the whole thing 90 degrees. And we developed a mapping, albeit a little quirky, between the Enneagram and our character archetypes. But as I was trying to develop the 12 personalities and tie them into the horoscope, I was running into things that just weren't lining up in the character descriptions from the Enneagram and the character description from the horoscope. So this is kind of how all three of the things line up. Uh, Basically, nine falls straight into where Aries exists, and Libra is kind of a split between a five and a four, at least on the Enneagrams. So when we read like Aries and the description of the Peacemaker, it's all flowy because it's all Barnum. So if we just kind of break it down to the big items, so an Aries is passionate, committed, competitive, loyal, smart, and impulsive, and they have an inner drive. Whereas peacemakers are peacemakers. They avoid conflict. They seek external validation. So that's in direct conflict with one another. That just won't jive. But then I thought to myself, well, what if I just kind of turn the dial ever so slightly? And if we take the 9 and turn it into a 1, well, an Aries is passionate and committed. A 1, a reformer, is mission driven. An Aries is competitive. A reformer overcomes adversity. An Aries is loyal, smart, and impulsive. A reformer is fond of personal sacrifice. They're both driven internally. It sounds like a much better match. So let's just see what damage we cause on the opposite side of the spectrum with the artist, the Libra, and the number 4 and 5. So the Libra, wall of text, the 4 and the 5, wall of text. Let's just boil it down. Libras live in their own heads and they depend on friends and family and they craft compromises and they're big picture thinkers. Whereas a number 4 live in their own heads and they basically sniff their own farts. And a 5 is a curious, inquisitive, valued their own judgments over observations from others. I mean, it's not a terrible matchup. Under the new system, walls of text, we'll boil it back down. We're basically just going to say that from here on out, a Libra is basically a number 5, an investigator. Live in their own heads, curious observer. Okay, that's kind of what I'm saying. They're inquisitive, craft compromises, they value their judgments over observations from others. I mean, these are very introverted descriptions of an intellectual person, and it jives. It's not 100%, but we're in the ballpark. And that's all we can hope for. Now, since we shifted things over, how does the mastermind in Scorpio shape out in the new system? It used to be a predominantly a 4. Now it's kind of a split shift between a 5 and a 4. I mean, before we had it as a 4 and a 3, and now it's a 4 and a 5. But if we remember, as we were describing what was the artist, now we're getting into the Scorpio, and those two descriptions there do kind of match better with what the horoscope predicts a Scorpio would be. And again, we're not going for 100% efficacy or anything like that. We're just trying to build on tropes and traditions that people can just grasp and run with. And we just don't want to conflict with the way things are. We do get something neat with the Virgo. So the philosopher Virgo number 5. So that used to be just strictly number 5. Now it's a number 6. So it used to be Virgo, and there's the wall of Virgo and it's an investigator. Well, now, under the new system, Virgo gets spliced with the loyalist. And as we get into, well, how have the characters from literature shifted? If you remember, we had that cluster of the Cuckoo's Keeper, and now that falls neatly into where the philosopher character exists. So here's our new mapping. We've got a lot more cusps than we had before, but that's not a bad thing. So let's see the damage we did. So this was the old map of homes. So this is the new map of homes. Everybody's just kind of like shifted to the left a little bit. Here was the original Lord of the Rings. Here's the new Lord of the Rings. And note that Frodo, the main hero, is still in roughly the same house. He still could be hedonist, could be a soldier, depending on how social he is. But note that Sam, though, he's now a philosopher, and now he's the loyalist. He's a number 6. And, well, what do we know about Sam? He's would follow Frodo halfway across the world. So I think I like this new rubric much better. Star Wars, not any major shifts. Leia is now a performer. R2D2 is now an explorer. Again, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, he shifts from an explorer to a philosopher, and from us, we now say that that's a 6, that's a loyalist, and that's a much happier kind of lineup for where we were going. Firefly just shifts a little bit, no major changes. Star Trek shifts a little bit, no major changes. Kind of where you'd expect characters to fall, they do, because we were lining things up before with the Enneagram, but now when we go to combine these characters with their astrological sign, at least as laid out by the color wheel, we're going to get some pretty much better integration between the three systems. Our evil twins don't shift all that much, because again, all we did was just take the Enneagram and turn it slightly. So let's see where it all ends up. This is kind of a summary of what the shift is. Just basically 9. The inner circle, we just turn 20 degrees. Our performers still kind of make sense as a description of the performers. This slide is wrong. Our rulers are now basically our 1W2s, 2W1s are now in the ruler category. We kind of split the old rulers up because now we have this cusp. So some of our ship's doctors end up being this performer ruler cusp, and a lot of the characters just remain straight performers where they used to be rulers. Jesters are now solidly in the ruler camp, which, it was kind of a messy category to begin with. It seems to be fine. Our doctor zone still applies because, again, all we did was just take the Enneagram and shift it slightly. Our old rebel is now broken up. We end up with solid jesters, and then the 3W4 is now kind of this jester rebel hybrid. But we can see from the characters that there is a bit of a difference between the characters in the left category and the right category. Our masterminds used to be spread out a little bit. Well, now all of our kid geniuses fall into the rebel camp, all of them. And then all of our other cases end up over in the mastermind. So our artists are now kind of broken up into either masterminds or mastermind artist hybrids. And the breakdown does, make a bit of sense if you remember a bit about how all these characters did their thing. Our philosophers are now our artists, and they basically just do a wholesale thwack. Our explorers are now philosophers, and then that's just a one-for-one shift. Our rights, which used to be two houses on the Enneagram, now break up into two different houses in our system here. Some of them are a philosopher explorer cusp, and some of them are straight up explorers. And I actually much prefer how we break the characters up into these two different groups. Our custodian was a bit of a mess before, and now that we break them into two camps, and again, I am much happier with how they get broken up because the two groups now have much more in common with each other than they did together. And then our old soldier used to be two wings, and now it's still two wings, but now one's in the custodian archetype and one's the soldier archetype. Our hedonist category. Yes. No. Miles, you're over in soldier now, man. Anyway, we just have four characters left, and they're all the heroic types. So that's actually an improvement. So our basic theme and character balance still holds up. We actually fixed some categories that were overly broad. And all the differences between where a character falls in the current system and where they fall in the previous system are well within the imprecision we're working with here as far as personality surveys and popularly defined personality temperaments. So there's no major shift in what we expect a character to do. If you kind of enjoy this system, I'm building it into a tabletop, and you can follow the discussion here over on r sublight RPG on Reddit. And I've built a deck for GMs so that you can use these principles to build characters and plots and drive stories. And you can get that on Drive-Thru. Drive-Thru RPG is either a downloadable that you can print yourself, or you can order professionally printed cards. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I say this will affect mostly when I'm getting into the 12 shorts I'm going to do for each of the archetypes. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one.